Role Player is a character building game where players create epic fantasy heroes by drafting dice, learning skills, attaining traits, and purchasing equipment. Players compete to create the best hero by acquiring reputation stars. Alright, here we go. Components. Each player will have a character sheet. It has the character's race and attribute rows where dice will be placed. Some races have race bonuses or penalties indicated by these numbers at the end of a row. There are also areas for alignment, class, and backstory cards. The border has areas where cards can be organized as they're acquired during the game. And finally, there's a scoring aid. Each player will get one class card showing one class on each side. The class card shows the class title, attribute goals, class ability, and class color. They choose a class and place it on their character sheet. Each player will also get a backstory card representing their pre-adventuring history. The backstory card shows the backstory title, the attribute dice configuration needed to gain reputation stars, and the amount of reputation stars gained for dice of the correct color matching configuration. It's placed here on the player's character sheet. And finally, each player will get an alignment card to track their player's moral path throughout the game. The alignment card shows the alignment title and the grid where the tracking token will be moving during the game. It's placed here on the player's character sheet. Setup. To set up the game, each player rolls a die. The highest roll is the starting player. Place all 73 dice into the bag and place the bag by the starting player. Beginning with the starting player and going around clockwise, each player chooses a character sheet. Note that each character sheet has a male and female side which are identical except for the character portrait. Each player gets 5 gold, with the third player getting 1 additional gold and the fourth player getting 2 additional gold. Next, the starting player draws 1 die from the bag and takes the class card matching the die's color. If a player draws a gold die, or a die color that has already been drawn, ignore it and draw another. When all the players have a class card, return all the dice to the bag. Next, randomly deal out 1 backstory and 1 alignment card to each player. Each player then gets the 2 tracking tokens matching their character's class color. Place 1 on the center space of the alignment card and the other on the class card. Place the gold and charisma tokens where all players can reach them. Lastly, each player gets a player aid. Return all unused character sheets, class cards, backstory cards, and alignment cards to the box. Next, we'll set up the market. Separate the market cards into 2 piles, 1 dot cards and 2 dot cards. Shuffle the decks, place them face down, and then place the 1 dot deck on top of the 2 dot deck. Create the market by drawing and placing cards equal to the number of players plus 1. The market is where players will be buying weapons, armor, traits, and skills. To set up the initiative track, line up the initiative cards in numerical order. Note the player numbers in the top left corner of the cards to determine which side should be showing. Return any unused initiative cards to the box and place 1 gold on the middle cards. The first and last initiative cards never have gold on them. The initiative track will determine the buying order at the market for the players. Beginning with the starting player, each player draws their starting dice. They draw dice equal to the number of players plus 4. When the players have drawn their dice, they roll them and place them on their attribute rows following these guidelines. Only 1 die per space. Dice must be placed in the leftmost empty space for each row. For each row that is filled with 3 dice, gain 1 gold. For each gold-colored dice placed, gain 2 gold. Note that attribute actions are not taken during this step. We'll go over what an attribute action is in a little bit. Now we are set up and ready for the starting player to begin the game. Turn overview. Role player is played over a series of rounds. Each round has 4 phases: the roll phase, dice phase, market phase, and cleanup phase. Rounds are played until all players have 18 dice on their character sheet. The player with the most reputation stars at the end of the game wins. Roll phase. Each round starts with the roll phase. The starting player draws dice equal to the number of initiative cards and rolls them to create the dice pool. The starting player then places the lowest value die onto the first initiative card. The next lowest value die is placed onto the second initiative card. If there are multiple dice with the same value, the starting player decides their order, and so on until all cards have a die on them. Dice phase. In the dice phase, the starting player chooses an initiative card. The gold on the initiative card is collected by the player that chose it. Each player then places the die from their initiative card onto one of the leftmost empty spaces of an attribute row on their character sheet. After placing the die, the player may take the associated attribute action of that row. Continuing clockwise around the table, the other players choose initiative cards. Let's look at the 6 different attribute actions. Placing a die in Strength allows the player to change the face value of any die on their character sheet to the opposite side of the die. Placing a die in Dexterity allows the player to swap the position of any 2 dice on their character sheet. Placing a die in Constitution allows the player to increase or decrease the face value of any die on their character sheet by 1. The dice don't loop, so a 6 cannot be changed into a 1 and vice versa. Placing a die in Intelligence allows the player to reroll any die on their character sheet. The player may choose the new face value or the original face value before returning the die to its original space. Placing a die in Wisdom allows the player to move their tracking token 1 space up, down, left, or right. We'll go over what this means in a little bit. Placing a die in Charisma allows the player to take a Charisma token. During the market phase, a player may discard the Charisma token to pay 1 less gold when buying a card. There are a couple notes about attribute actions. First, the die that was just placed may be affected by the attribute action taken. And second, moving dice around because of an attribute action doesn't trigger more attribute actions. Market phase. After all players have placed their die and taken their attribute actions, the market phase happens. The initiative cards determine the buy order for the market phase. In the market phase, all the players will have the opportunity to buy a card from the market or discard a card from the market to gain 2 gold. Let's take a closer look at the market cards. Each market card shows the name of the card, what type it is, a description of what it does, and the cost to buy it. Some market cards have an arrow indicating what direction the player's tracking token will move when the card is purchased. Note that if the tracking token cannot be moved in the direction shown by the arrow, the card can still be purchased. There are 4 types of market cards: weapons, armor, traits, and skills. Weapon cards give some sort of passive bonus. Note that each weapon card has a 1 or 2 hand icon in the bottom right. A character can only hold up to 2 hands worth of weapon cards. There are 3 sets of armor cards: Chain, Leather, and Mystic. Armor cards give more reputation stars the more a player has of a set. Each set of armor also gives a bonus reputation star based on class color. Some trait cards give parameters for gaining more reputation stars, while other trait cards give reputation stars outright. Skill cards grant special actions to players once per round. When a skill card is used, move the tracking token as indicated by the arrow, and then rotate the card 90 degrees to show it's been exhausted for this round. Skill cards can be used at any time unless noted in the card's description. If the tracking token cannot move in the direction indicated by the arrow on the skill card, the skill cannot be used. Note that a skill can be used to adjust the tracking token without using the skill action. In this example, this player has the lowest initiative card, so he'll visit the market first. He chooses to buy the Mystic Cloak for 4 gold. He places it near the armor area of his character sheet. This player will visit the market next. He chooses to buy the Pickpocket skill for 2 gold, and places it near the skills area of his character sheet. This player will go next, and decides to discard the Cunning card to gain 2 gold. Cleanup phase. For the cleanup phase, return the remaining die from the dice pool back to the bag. Place 1 gold on the middle initiative cards if they don't already have one. Note that initiative cards will never have more than 1 gold on them. Discard all the remaining market cards and return any unused charisma tokens to the supply. Create the market for the next round by drawing and placing market cards equal to the number of initiative cards. If there are no more cards in the market draw deck, shuffle the discard pile to create a new draw deck. Each player may then refresh 1 skill card by turning it upright. Finally, the starting player passes the dice bag to the player on their left, and that player becomes the starting player for the next round. Gaining gold. Let's review the 4 ways a player can gain gold. First, a player gains 2 gold when they place a gold-colored die on their character sheet in the dice phase. A player also gains 2 gold when they discard a market card instead of buying in the market phase. 1 gold is gained when a player places the 3rd die in an attribute row. This is indicated by the gold border around the 3rd space of each row. Lastly, 1 gold is gained when selecting an initiative card that has a gold on it. Reputation stars. The game ends when all the players have filled all the attribute spaces on their character sheet. Players add up their reputation stars using the back of their player aid card and the tracking token on their class card. Attribute goals are completed if the sum of the dice in a row equals the value or range of values on the class card for that attribute. Make sure to add or subtract any race bonuses or penalties. For each die on a player's character sheet that matches their class color, a reputation star is gained. For the character's alignment, add or subtract reputation stars based on the final position of the tracking token. If there are dice on the character sheet that match the color and location shown on the backstory card, the player will gain reputation stars. Armor cards give reputation stars based on how many of each set the player has. Each set of armor also gives a bonus reputation star based on class color. And finally, add any reputation stars from trait cards. Remember that for some trait cards, a player must fulfill the requirements on the card in order to gain the reputation stars for it. The player with the most reputation stars wins the game. In case of a tie, the tied player with the most gold wins. And those are the rules for Roll Player.